Hey, all right. Welcome to Shally's Alley. You are live with our special guest, CoSandra Dent. And this may be the last episode in May. Yeah, it's May 30th. Um, man, I just realized I was looking at my YouTube channel because somebody asked me to send them the link, and I don't usually go and look at my own channel. Um, I, you know, it's kind of like I was already there, but I went in there and I was trying to figure out how many episodes. We're over 300 episodes. This is insane.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time. As a matter of fact, I started the Shally's Alley podcast while I was working at Fiserv, and that is where I met the fabulous CoSandra Dent. We all call her Co because we love her. And she was, well, when I started there, you were VP of TA or
Yeah.
senior
I was,
director,
I was, I was vice president. That's right. Yeah.
VP of TA, and then so you were my boss's boss or something like that
That's right.
because it was centralized. So there were multi. I remember having a bunch of bosses.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met there at work in Fiserv. I was there for 5 years, and Co stayed on for another year until she took the brave step of deciding to hang her own shingle and start her own company. And of course, when she did that, one of the things that she did is call me and ask if I would be interested in collaborations, which of course I would love to. And so we reconnected even after Fiserv. And Co, now it's been a couple of years since you left the relative safety of a quote unquote stable corporate job. Um, since leaving, what has been the biggest surprise to you, good or bad,
Yeah.
since you kind of stepped out on your own and hung up your own shingle? Tell us the story.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shally, for having me. You're right. It's been almost 2 years since I started CoCreate Solutions. And I will say it was a big step. But I felt like, it's time. Why not now to do the things that I love, but just do it for myself? I
Right.
think one of the biggest surprises was when you work in corporate, you have a team. And you
Mhm.
leverage that team to do many different things. But as an entrepreneur, you have to wear many different hats, anywhere from sourcing to filling out invoices, business development. And that's where I was able to call you and leverage you to do some of the business development for me and or with me. But I think just wearing a lot of different hats, I've even taught myself
Yeah.
Excel and PowerPoint, things that I, didn't do quite well when I was in corporate. I know I have to do that now. So I think that's one of the biggest surprises.
The learning curve, you mean? Like so
Yeah,
many different.
it was somewhat of a learning curve, and it takes lots of patience, especially when you're trying to make things look perfect for the client. So yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah. And a good friend of mine, um, you might remember Amanda Janala.
I do.
Yeah. So Amanda and my wife were in the same book club together for a while. So when I actually started at Fiserv, Amanda came up and introduced herself. She's like, "Hey, Shally," and I'm like, "Oh my god, how do you know?" She's like, "Oh, I'm friends with your mom and this other friend of mine." And she's like, "We are in the same book club." And I was like, "Yay!" Two friendly faces at Fiserv, people that I know. But she used to say, I don't know where she got it from, but she used to say, "Perfection is the enemy of good."
Yeah,
And sometimes something is good enough. I mean, you want to do your best when you have, especially when you have a new client. Not that I don't do my best when I'm working with an existing client or that I do less or whatever, but when you're working with a new client, you're on stage.
absolutely.
You're being observed more closely. Once that trust is there, then you can do quality work, but you don't have the, at least that's how I feel, this kind of pressure to be perfect. And
Absolutely.
that pressure is partly what sort of drives me crazy when eh, when I distract myself. Maybe you're experiencing this too, and kind of go down the rabbit hole with tweaking that PowerPoint slide just a little bit more and spend hours on it, and it's going to be 5 seconds on screen.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm working with a client now, and I had a meeting with the chief technology officer. And luckily, I had great leaders at Fiserv who taught me how to show up, make sure you're thinking way ahead of what they could be thinking. So I often think back to some of the leaders that had a great impact with how I show up. So for that particular client, I prepared like a 2 page, just a couple of slides just to highlight what my talent acquisition strategy would be because it's the chief technology officer. But when I showed up, he was so casual, did not want any.
That's fine.
You just
Right.
want to have a conversation about how I plan to find the talent. So I think there's still some, I don't want to call it PTSD because it's totally not that, but
It's a different environment.
it's
Yeah.
a
When
different
you're,
environment. I'm having to change and customize my approach based on the client. It's not always going to be, I guess you could say, very corporate, so to speak. Some of it is just going to be very laid back conversation and building that trust from there. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
so did you make a mistake leaving corporate? You want to go back?
Sure. That's a very good question, and I can answer that by saying absolutely not. Now, I have had my moments. I've
Yeah.
had my moments because
Me
I was
too.
in corporate for so long. It's like, what have I done? And sometimes being an entrepreneur can be lonely. I mean, you're in your office and you don't have
Yeah.
a team that's
That's
walking
right.
up to your desk. And I'm an extrovert. I like to get out and I like to talk to others. And I miss my team members. I miss my, counterparts. But no, when I think about being able to do something I'm extremely passionate about and build it from the ground up, my own framework based on what I've learned, my successes, I even have to think about the lessons that I've learned to make sure I don't do those types of things again. But being able to just do something for people, businesses that I feel like my heart is in it. I love it. And so no, I don't I haven't looked back. I can't say
Yeah.
that it's been a perfect world because when you're in corporate and you have a team and you're at the VP level,
There's some rails, right? There's like,
yeah,
you've got some, yeah, you've got
absolutely.
some parameters that you can sort of adhere to that I mean they're it's not a safety net per se because you can mess up just as bad in
Yeah.
corporate as you can on your own, but there's these parameters where like there's, I don't know, a book of rules even if they're unspoken,
Yeah.
and as long as you operate within those rules you're going to be fine, except for unexpected circumstances.
Right.
So this is a safe space,
Mhm.
here we don't have any tomatoes or egg throwing or anything like that. What what would you, if you could go back to Fiserv days and reassure your day one self, like the day that you left and said, I'm going to do this. If you could go back and reassure that with one piece of advice about what you were about to step into, what would it be?
Be patient.
Be patient. Okay.
Be patient. It takes lots of resilience and patience because when you want things, so when you're in corporate, you get a requisition. You can just go fill it. You don't have to go build relationships and get your foot in the door at a
Mhm.
company. The business is coming to you. And I think that's what's been sort of a eye opener for me is that things aren't going to happen as fast as they used to. First and foremost, you've got to earn the business. You've got to get in front of the business to convince them that you're the right person. Where I didn't have to do that at Fiserv because people knew about the company.
Right.
Fiserv has a great brand, or any of the other companies that I've worked. But I do feel that patience, lots of resilience is what I would have told myself. You're not going to go in thinking this is going to happen as fast as you would like for it to.
Yeah, it's not like home runs from day one.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true. Yeah, in fact, I would say one of the things that I went to school for business, international business. I got a dual degree. The other degree is in international communications. Um, but the business side of it, one of the things that they were teaching us is entrepreneurship, and so there's all these classes on business accounting, entrepreneurship, financing, so you can kind of get out there and start your own company. So they tried to prepare me for it. but they never talked about this one thing. And even all the coaches that I met since then and mentors and people that have helped me along the way, they never said this one thing that I feel like all of us CEOs of our own businesses have in common, but we never talk about. And that is the nightmare that keeps you up at night, which is, how am I going to meet the next payroll?
Right.
Because that's one thing you don't have to worry about in corporate, where I don't want to say your paycheck is guaranteed because people get laid off, things happen, but as long as you're working, you're getting a paycheck, and companies go out of their way to make sure you get that paycheck. When you're the one that signs the paycheck, sometimes as a business owner, you have to forego the paycheck
Mhm.
because you have to put that money into something that you need more than the income, or because you have employees, as was in my case, that they need to get paid because they're the ones that are in a job, right? So
Right.
that's the one thing that they don't tell you about, is the fear of the abysmal, oh my God, how am I going to meet my payroll? Even if it's just you still have to have that income. You can't not have income
Right.
with your own business. You still have to have something, and there's a balance between take it home, as in like your pay, or like reinvest it in the business, where you maybe wouldn't have thought twice about ordering a ream of paper or a box of pens when you were a corporate. um, you know Now you're like, do I really need that coffee maker? is it or do I want to spend some more on Google ads because
Right.
I
Yeah.
and it's scary, it's frightening. They don't tell you about that, man. They just don't. It's one of those things.
They
So
don't. They don't.
yeah, it's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
especially I hadn't done it before. So I did the reverse of what you did. Do you remember this? I left my business to go to Fiserv.
I remember.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was a tough interview question too, because Julie and you both asked me this. My
I
boss
remember.
and you both asked me the same
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Why are you giving up your own company and everything? And what I had done at that time was we were far enough along before COVID that I hired a CEO, and that
Mhm.
was my answer was, hey, the business is going to continue. I'll be an advisor, and I was very upfront about it. You guys knew that I was never going to do anything on business work time, but I still had a little bit of a connection to it. However, the business ran itself until COVID. So I kind of took the other step, and
Mhm.
the same fears apply both ways. The fear of the uncertainty, like for me, having my own company was more stable than having a job,
Right. That's right.
because I had just been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
But you've led large corporate TA teams. What, and you told us a little bit about this before, already here, but what is something that you miss, and something you definitely don't miss, about a large corporate team? And I want you to be a little introspective, a little playful here. Some comparisons maybe, that other leaders out there are going to go, oh yeah, I know all about that. Wink, wink. Right. So what is one thing you miss and one thing you don't miss about being in a large corporate TA team?
Sure. I think one of the things I miss is being able to develop my team members. We built some pretty good internal mobility programs where we focused on internal talent and we watched them grow up throughout the organization. I miss having the ability to develop. Now that's going to happen soon because as CoCreate gets bigger,
Right.
obviously I'll
You'll
hire
have
more
your
talent.
own. Yeah. And you're
Absolutely.
developing yourself, which is a
Oh,
different. Yeah. As a matter of
absolutely.
fact, I actually have, you can't see it because it's up there, but I have my certificate from
Oh,
Fiserv. I was there for 5 years, and the organization invested quite a bit in my development. There was that strategic talent advisor, which I did both levels, and then I was teaching it. Then there was that other one, with the managing, with the what was that called? Oh my gosh, with the
managing matters.
yeah,
Manage,
where it had the 4 quadrants and everything. That
yeah.
was really helpful. So,
Right.
yeah, so you're saying what you miss is kind of the structure of having these learning opportunities for yourself, for your
Absolutely.
team. What do you not miss?
Absolutely. But I will say to your point, I have had a lot of development for myself as an entrepreneur. I've completed several certifications that I feel like are credentials that some companies want to see. For instance, my WBE, Women Business Enterprise. And I also completed my Women's Small Business Certification. Went through a 6-week training a few weeks ago with Greater Wealth Works, who helps
Oh, okay.
you
It's provided by
define
a
your
support
business plan.
organization.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It helps define your business plan, how you pitch your business. So it was much needed. Had so much fun doing that. What don't I miss? Um, you know, I can say at I would say I don't miss a lot of the politics, right? I like being my true authentic self. And I think inevitably we have politics no matter what we do. But I think in certain cases, or, there were politics that I had to navigate that I don't have to do as much anymore. Obviously, when I'm getting
Right.
a new client, there may be some things tied to that. I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, but you know what? Let's get the client first.
Hmm.
But I don't miss the politics as much as I had to endure. It's been pretty
No,
relaxing um, and not as stressful knowing that I am in charge of my own destiny and I don't have anyone else who I have to rely on to do that. So,
that can be scary, but that can also be a relief. So
yeah.
that's what you miss and what you don't miss. It's something interesting about what you brought up that I feel like a lot of people in talent acquisition who are looking to climb the ladder and go into management and leadership. And I learned the hard way that there's a big difference between management and leadership.
Mhm.
Becoming a manager is different than becoming a,
A
a
leader.
manager of manager or leader of leaders. But
Absolutely.
a lot of times, people, at least from my perspective, what I've seen is they hesitate to move out of the management role into the leadership role because of what you just said,
Mhm.
because it's heavily political. But what most people don't know, or I guess don't recognize, is that recruiting is probably the most heavily politicized function
Yeah.
in corporate. The reason for that is even though there are jobs in corporate that are by nature political, like public relations, and you know,
Mhm.
but the reason recruiting is much more politicized than all the others is because we deal with multiple levels of relationships.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, we don't have direct authority. So as a TA leader, you have people that report to you that you can command, but most of the time the work that you're doing is the work that they're doing with other people, and those people you can't command, and the
Right.
candidates you can't command, and the ultimately the leadership above those people, your executive leadership, they're counting on you, but you don't really have any direct line authority. So
Right.
there's a lot of what we call politics that is necessary if you want to
Absolutely.
get into a role like that. And I think it transfers into your own business because as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to learn to adapt that political savvy into um, relationship building and trust building in a
Mhm.
different way. But it's very much managing sideways and managing up. It's very similar.
It's very
It's just
similar. It's very
you
similar. And
can't avoid it. I don't think you can.
you absolutely cannot avoid
Yeah.
it. And I think that I've used what I've learned in corporate, and I've leveraged those core competencies. And I think some of those competencies that I've mastered is influence, right? Being able to influence, building relationships. So I've leveraged those competencies almost every day when I'm talking to new clients. How can
Mhm.
I influence them? How can I make sure that data tells the story based on what I've done in the past versus emotion? I've taken all of those lessons learned in corporate over into the entrepreneurial sector. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's something you cannot escape politics. But I will say
It's different. It changes.
it's
Yeah.
different. It's different because I don't, you know, I have to pretty much navigate with myself versus having to go ask for approval from someone else. So
Mm.
that's the part I think. While I don't mind partnering and having a leader who I feel can truly teach me, like I've had in the past, um, I do enjoy sort of being the boss, so to speak.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a nice benefit, I think, of
Yeah.
um, you can just not work that day. I mean, you probably won't get paid, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and I will say there are, being an entrepreneur. One other thing I've learned, you really don't shut off. You don't.
no,
I
but
find
you
myself working every single
yep,
day.
you don't shut off, but you do also
Absolutely.
learn how to take, like, it was an adjustment for me to go back into solopreneurship after leaving Fiserv, because I had to learn to, like, I can make a run to the grocery store right now.
Right.
Well, not right now because I'm on the show, but if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, I could go run to the grocery store, and because nobody's expecting me to be at the office,
Right.
right? I don't have any meetings, right? So you have a lot more freedom with your time, um, as long as you don't, the downside to that, of course, is overuse that freedom, and the other downside to it is that because you are on your own time, clients that are in California and China both think that you're there all the time, and so you end up having
Absolutely.
these meetings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Speaking
do.
of time, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No worries. I do like the balance that I've been able to have of being a mom. I have two small ones. One is almost well, she's about to be a teenager. So I have been able to find that balance where I'm not tied to my computer or taking it with me to maybe a luncheon with my son's class. I don't have to do
Mm.
that anymore, or my phone rather. So I've been able to have that balance of being a mom and being a wife. So it's been great. But on the flip side of that, I know I have to make up that time because I can't afford to not be on when I know that there's an important client meeting that's coming up, or a meeting with my sourcer. I can't afford to be off too long, but I do block that time to spend with my family, and I love
Yeah,
it.
the balance is important.
Absolutely.
Not everybody is cut out for, that jump. Um, so how did you know you're sitting there, in your big corporate office? How did you know that the time was right to go and start to co-create? Was there a moment, or
Yeah.
was it like a growing kind of, like, it just pulled you for a while until it finally just pulled?
Yeah. I like that question because that's the question I can answer, and I hope I can answer it without getting emotional. Um, I I had time to think about what was next, and I felt like it was time for me to step out on my own, but I resisted that direction that I was hearing at night or in the middle of the night when I would wake up and I was told to start your own. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. And so there's a spiritual perspective to this that I won't go into, but I will say that that thought was revealed to me 3 nights in a row, consecutive. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do my own thing. I'm just going to go back to corporate America. Um, but I had already started looking into getting my LLC. So I
Mhm.
was just sort of thinking about it, but nothing serious. And so I got a virtual office, and I grabbed my kids one day. This was last summer. And I said, hey, you guys want to go see this virtual office I'm renting
I
every month?
remember this, yeah.
And they were like, yeah. So we pulled up to the building, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And we got to the building. I go in, and my kids are looking at me like, what's wrong, mom? And I said, this is the same building where I worked when I first moved to Atlanta in 1994. And they were like, mom, what if it's the same floor? I said, it can't be the same floor. So I go up to the receptionist and I said, I'm renting an office here, CoCreate Solutions. Can you tell me what floor I'm on? She said, yep, you're on floor 19. And when she said that, I stepped off the elevator and I looked, and my mom passed away in 2018. And I felt my mom. And I looked, and it was the same area where I used to talk to my mom on the phone when I was at work, which I probably shouldn't have been on the phone at work. But anyway, the
Gotta
same
call
view.
mom, come on.
It was the same view, everything full circle. And I felt it then. I said, this is what I should be doing. And so I got a tour of the office, and I knew then that I felt strongly that that voice that I was hearing was from my mom. And
So you
so
were call. I mean, it was a. I guess it was a slow burn. You started feeling it. You were called into it, and you felt like it was a tugging. And then there was a moment. There must have been some sort of like a breaking point where you just said, "Yeah, this is it." Like,
Yeah, that was the day that I decided, you know what? I'm not looking back. I'm full steam ahead. If she's telling me I need to do this, I'm moving and pressing forward. So, I feel like, and I can't, I have to go back. I had thought that I wanted to go back to corporate, but when I stepped out of that elevator, it was confirmed. There's something bigger that I
you
need
were
to,
more at home there than you felt, right?
something I bigger I needed to be doing. And so I haven't looked back since. I haven't.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
So there's both a pull and a moment, like a
Yeah.
reassuring moment where, you felt like the safety net didn't need to be there anymore because you had faith, right?
Well, in the safety
Yeah.
net, you mentioned there's, when you're in corporate, you got to get paid in 2 weeks or the week after or once a
Yeah.
month or whatever. But I will say, because I was led to do this, I've been very blessed to not have skipped a beat in that area. Now, for those who know me, they know I love to shop. So I have become more disciplined, if anything, more disciplined in the things that I really don't need. I've scaled back a lot on not buying those things, but as far as necessities and things that, obviously I need to live, we have not skipped a beat. And I'm very thankful and grateful for that. It's been a true blessing because I don't have another job while I
Right.
run CoCreate Solutions. This is my soul.
It is your
Um,
full-time job. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So I'm very, very, very grateful.
And I think this might be a related or something we can piggyback off that. But when you consider making the jump and what you just said about, there is no safety net, but you made your own safety net, so to speak.
Mhm.
What's something that corporate TA leaders get wrong when they dream the same dream, when they dream of going independent, leaving it all behind and hanging their own shingle? Because I've seen it a lot, and I've had other friends recently who have gone into actually just saw a post yesterday on LinkedIn from a friend and colleague and former coworker who's never been an entrepreneur, who literally just yesterday announced, I'm done with this. I'm starting my own company. Here's a link, and there was like all this show of support. But what is the one thing you would tell people like that um, that they get wrong?
I think what people get wrong is that it won't work, because it does. It will work.
It can work. Okay,
It
so
can work. It's all about what you put into it.
okay,
And it's about having faith. Again, you're gonna have those moments where you think, what did I do? And you have your friends looking at you like, have you lost your mind? you know, but when you have faith and you believe in yourself and you know what you're capable of, and you have relationships of people, of those decision makers who can back you up and are in your corner, that support system, it can work. And I think people need to realize that, because otherwise they will not step out because of fear. You have to overcome that
yeah,
fear. I went through the fear because I was told twice to do it. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. And the third time I'm like, okay, and maybe I need to think about this. And then when I went to the building, that was confirmation. I think overcoming that fear is the first step. And it takes faith to get there, without me going into much more of the spiritual aspect of how I got here.
that's funny. An old cowboy friend of mine used this analogy that just popped into my head as you were saying that. Yeah, keep in mind this is cowboy humor, but he was like, the first time somebody tells you you're a horse or you look like a horse, um, you can dismiss it because they can think whatever they think. Second time somebody tells you you look like a horse, you might get angry and you know push back. Third time somebody tells you look like a horse, buy a saddle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love that story.
Three people are telling you it's time. It's probably time, unless you have some real evidence to the contrary. with that. So um, now, can you tell me a little bit about what is the impetus for co-create? Like, what is it? It's not just recruiting and placing people. I
Yeah,
know that's part of the solution, but just like being a TA leader, it's not about filling jobs. I mean, you do fill jobs, and that is the objective. But there's a lot more than just filling jobs, because you can fill jobs a bunch of different ways, and some of them are not necessarily ideal, right? So, what is the impetus behind co-create? What's the full package that people need to understand about the business?
absolutely. I would never forget the day I was in my office and I had someone helping me outline what I wanted to do. And I worked with her at Fiserv.
Yeah, the mission, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were outlining just everything I wanted to do outside of the mission. Like, I want talent placement. I want to be able to help with resume proficiency, LinkedIn optimization, you name it. I want to do it all. And she looked at me and she said, and I looked at her rather, and I said, who's going to do all this? And she said, you. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that. Again, you wear a lot of different hats. And so what I decided to do, I knew I had a passion. I have a passion for talent placement, working with clients and businesses, understanding their workforce planning, understanding and knowing what type of talent gaps they have, and literally going out there to look and find the talent. But then there's another side of it that I love, and that's arming the candidates. Considering I've been in corporate for so long, I'm able to pull back the curtain to arm the candidates with what these hiring leaders are looking for. So I said, I've got to make sure I have a component of CoCreate that does career services, networking, career counseling. I just got a bunch of folks from the federal government who were in transition, but their resumes were 28 pages long. And I'm like, you can't enter into the private sector with a 28-page long resume. Let me help you. So being able to help on both sides, the career services and the talent placement, is what CoCreate Solutions is what we do. And I think that's what sort of set us apart from other staffing agencies, is that we have a candidate side that I take the time to help. And obviously it is getting quite overwhelming. And I'm hoping to build a SME for each arm of my business within the next few months.
Well, one of our colleagues, former colleagues, Greg, just posted a
I
little.
see Greg
Yeah,
Valinsky, one of my
yeah, that's
faves.
right. Take it, yeah, if you can't read it on the screen, your
Yeah,
your own business is a higher risk than working corporate. Yeah, it takes a high confidence level to take that step. That's true. It does take a high confidence level, but I think once you got a kid out there, the confidence that you need to take each step is less and less, because you feel like you kind of fall into your place. Like Co was saying, you arrive at that, this is what I want to do, and it's now more, what am I going to do next, and how am I going to get there, rather than fear of a misstep at that point.
that's right.
So I think it becomes the fear and the apprehension becomes more confidence as you do it, especially when you have a couple of successes and you're like, hey, I can do this. This is actually this is gonna work. Um,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I think another thing I wanted to point out was, when you make a mistake as an entrepreneur, um, or when you feel like you want to give up, I'll never forget. I had a one day I had a rough day, and I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And then I told myself, you can't quit. You have to keep, like, so I was literally in my head talking to myself as my boss. So me as a direct report was telling my boss, which would be me in both situations, I quit. No, you can't quit. So you just keep going. You build confidence by making the mistakes. I have a spreadsheet of mistakes that I've made, right? That I won't do again. Um, but I think you need those mistakes as an entrepreneur in order to know what not to do, in order to build up that self confidence, because the more you get it right, the more confident you are. So yeah, you have your moments, but I think confidence is something, to Greg's point, is key. And the confidence I have today, it's not the confidence I had when I first started CoCreate Solutions at all. So
Right. Right. Which makes me actually ask this other question. From a distance on LinkedIn, uh, it looks great. It's a it's um, the shiny, glamorous lifestyle of building your own business, but in real life, it's it's way messier, right? What what is one thing that you can think of that like looks great on paper, but IRL is like, ooh, this is a big grind, but it looks good
um, that looks good on paper.
on LinkedIn. People look at it and go, "Oh, this is awesome," but behind the scenes, there you're
Okay,
that's where you're putting a lot of sweat equity
yeah,
and
absolutely. I would say just the honestly, the way I show up, I have to go back to that, because I remember I went to this conference and this woman said, "Oh, I see you. I saw you on LinkedIn. I saw your videos. You always show up. You always look so great." And I'm thinking, those were the days I felt like crap. So you just, I've learned to just not allow my feelings to take over what tomorrow is. And I think when you see me certain events, yeah, it's shiny, but everything
Mhm.
that shine isn't gold, rest assured. Um, but
The
I
elbow
think
grease went into that.
I'm sorry.
A lot of elbow grease went into that.
Oh yeah, I think I just keep pushing through. So I will say, if you were to look on LinkedIn, you're gonna see where she got her certifications, which is great, and all these things, but people don't see me every day, what it took to get those certifications,
Mhm.
um, and what it's taking to get some of the clients that I've gotten. So yeah, I think that would be the main thing, is how I'm able to show up regardless of what I'm feeling.
Okay. All right. Let me turn the tables a little bit here and get off of the whole moving out of corporate and starting your own business and talk about a little bit, something a little bit more personal. Is there a book or a podcast that has helped you with this transition or with basically with this building the business, right? So over the last year and a half, 2 years, any book or podcast that you would recommend to people that are either doing this themselves or considering doing this themselves? It might be a good inspiration for them.
Absolutely. I do have a book, and the book is now on Amazon, and it's called Mastering How to Get the Job. And what I decided to do was put everything that Co-Create Solutions, what we do, and wrapped it up in a book, all the way from optimizing your LinkedIn profile, creating your own personal value proposition. Again, the resume proficiency that we talked about, have case studies in this book on how to interview, all the way to negotiating an offer and not lowballing yourselves. All the things that I was able to see, some of these things we implemented in corporate, obviously, part of those projects. I put all of that in a book. And again, it's now on Amazon. It will be on my website here next week. So it's fresh and hot off the press. I hope people will go out there and order the
Send me a
book.
link to it
I will
to the
send you a link.
bookstore.
I
Um,
will. I
and
will.
I don't need to tell you this, but you know how to optimize your profile. If you go on your profile on LinkedIn, you can add the bookstore link to your profile, so everybody that sees you will have they can click on it and go directly to your bookstore.
Did not know that. So
Yeah,
no, thank you for that. Thank you
little
for that.
hack. Yeah, but send me the link. I'll get it out there. Um,
Absolutely. And I'm very
when
proud of that. I'm very proud of that, because I feel like it's sort of a toolkit, or a reference that a lot of the graduates can use once again, because they're in transition. So I had an opportunity to make sure I addressed everyone in that book, all the way from your graduate to your veteran, your federal worker, executive, you name it. It's in the book. And I do have a part two coming out soon. I won't tell you the name of that one, but I am in the process of writing my second book.
oh
So
oh
I'm excited about that.
big deal.
Yeah.
Um, What's your soundtrack?
What do you mean?
I have my soundtrack, when
You
I'm
mean
not
like
on the calls and when I'm not, when I'm not talking, which whether I'm on a call or um, whatever, I've got you're at home. It's different than when you're in the office, or in your home office. So you can, you can crank some tunes in the boombox or
you
put
mean
your
like
headphones on.
music
What's
soundtrack?
your soundtrack?
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought that's what you were talking about. Do you mean music?
yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I listen to all different types of music.
When you're
Um,
working, so like, you're gonna sit down for work. You want to focus. You hit the play button on, I don't know, it's a playlist or a radio station that you can absorb without getting, you know distracted, right? what's
right.
what's your what's your focus soundtrack, your work focus soundtrack?
I don't really listen. I have the TV in the background, which is
Oh,
awful.
well, there you go, that's your soundtrack. Yeah. now
Yeah.
you, so,
Okay,
so
I
so
thought you
some
meant music.
people, huh?
I was thinking music soundtrack,
It
but
doesn't
no.
have to be. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. So I found when, as I teach and coach on working remotely, um, and I have a job seeker class that I teach, which has a component about like basically looking for a job is kind of a remote job. It's,
Oh, I see.
you're working from home and your job is to find a job, and so some trips sorry tips for that. And I find that a lot of folks need, especially when they used to be in an office, they need background
Mhm.
noise.
No. Yeah.
And so it's it's everything from either turn the TV on and leave it on some kind of
Yeah.
channel that, like, for me it would be the Star Trek 24-hour channel because I've seen every episode, and so I can drop into a Star Trek episode for 30 seconds and know exactly what's going on. So that's something, or they just turn the radio on, or they put on their favorite podcasts or whatever. But yeah, so when you have that, your home, or you're in your home office or your rented office, and it's quiet,
Yeah.
and it's like, I gotta have some noise. This is too quiet. Now there's definitely sometimes when I hit the mute button, and
Yeah.
I got my trusty Bose noise canceling
Right.
headphones that will shut down the lawnmower and the inevitable leaf blower during business meetings with clients. But there's always these times when I got to turn on the tunes and it just escape,
Yeah.
take a little mental vacation. So what's
Absolutely.
your beverage? Coffee, tea, soda, juice,
So,
big old stein of beer. Um,
it's crazy. Ever since I've been an entrepreneur, I've been on a health kick. So my beverage is water. I drink lots of water during the day. Um, I watch all of my other. The only other thing I think I would drink would be coffee in
oh
the morning.
yeah, yeah,
But
which is flavored
all
water.
day, I'm drinking lots of
Look,
water.
check this out. So I just bought a cooler. You see it?
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
It's a regular size.
Oh wow!
The I don't know. The bottle is a regular size, but the
Yeah.
cooler itself is desktop. And so I had this little space in the corner on my desk, and there's a window there which I like to open. So I really can't use the desk for anything because the window opens over the desk, and if I put anything on there, it would. But there's room in the corner for a little something. I'm like, a really good place for a water cooler. So I have a water cooler that you have
That's a
red
good idea.
and
I should get one for my office. I definitely have the space. I should get that because I'm going up and down the stairs filling up my water bottle.
right. Yeah, that was me. I was going in and out of the house, and
But it's
you know
movement though, right? So it's
it is,
movement.
but the dog gets out, and it's still
Yeah.
movement. I did put it on the other end of the office, but it's got hot water too, so you can
Oh,
go fill up a cup of tea. The hot water is tea hot, not like boiling hot.
I do
And
have
the
a coffee maker here in my office because when it was the winter, I would like cuddle up with some coffee and then get started in the mornings. But I haven't used it in a while. But yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I will look into a water cooler.
Yeah, that's my beverage. I mean, it's
Yeah,
water, and if it's not
yeah,
water, I might be cut with a Monster Energy drink or something like that. Um, but that's kind of a little bit about motivation. You gotta stay motivated. It's
absolutely. And I
tough.
think the mornings allow me to go to the track, get a good walk in, and then get started. So I like having that flexibility as well. Not that I didn't have that in corporate because you can always make time to move and and exercise, but I do like the fact that, I can determine what time my day starts.
Yeah, right. It
By
doesn't
getting
have to be the same time every day.
no, it
Yeah, like
doesn't.
I just got done with well, not done, but I'm almost completely mended from my surgery for my
Mhm.
ankle,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking about going back to the gym.
Yeah.
And I got that. That's what that's paper is hanging on over there to remind me. I got the YMCA listing for their yoga classes because somebody said, what would be good for your ankle as you recover, be some yoga because there's a lot of stretching and, and I can
Yeah.
really do a lot of activity with the recent surgery. So I'm like, you know what? There's a yoga class at 1 in the afternoon on Tuesday. I can go to that. I can
You
put it
can
on.
go to that. That's right.
Yeah, I don't have to, yeah. I remember we had a gym at Fiserv, and I loved going to the gym because I could
Yeah.
go
Yeah, I
during
remember that. You were
during
on the
lunch
you
hours.
were part of the wellness program. I
I
remember that.
was, yeah, I was a
Yeah. Yeah.
and I loved
Absolutely.
going down there because they had everything, showers and everything.
Yeah.
But not every work has that. And when you're at home, going to the YMCA is a bit of, you got to go there.
Mhm.
So I got to put it on my calendar. But um, to wrap things up, I told you I was not going to keep it more than an hour, and we're getting pretty close to that. I wanted to ask you a question, kind of. Well, there's two questions that I ask, but one of the ones that I wanted to ask is not my typical closing question, but it's a good
Oh,
one for entrepreneurs, which is what would be a habit or a routine that helps you stay grounded when things get really chaotic, right? In a corporate office, we have our routines and our habits, whether that is go to the cafeteria or go make a pot of coffee or whatever. That it's like when things get overwhelming and we're like, I need to take a break. So at home, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, what is a habit or routine that will ground you when things are like, ah,
yeah. I think just staying focused, and I think it's easy for me to do that based on my work ethics. Um,
but when everything is like it's 100%, everything's running 100%, and you feel like, my God, I just need to take a break. What does that look like? Is there a habit or a routine? You said, is that what you walk, go to the track to
yeah, I
walk?
do. Yeah, I do I do walk, but it's hard for me to.
That's not your stress break though. That's just part of your routine.
That's just part of my routine.
Do you have a
So
stress break
I
method?
do. I do. I have sort of have a coworker that sits with me every day. His name is Dallas, and it's our toy poodle. So I typically take him for a walk. We get up and we go outside just so I can just breathe a little, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Just take
exactly.
a mental break with my dog. And even when we're not walking, just looking at him is just so soothing and pleasing. Just having him, he would be in here now, but I made sure if he hears anything outside, he'll stop barking. But I
Mm,
think just taking time to just step away, right? I don't do
yeah,
that very long because if it's something I know I need to flip over to a client, I'm not. I have to get that over, right?
right. But
And
there's
then if
a,
it's
there's
yeah,
a 5 minute something or other that you
yeah,
can
but
do.
yeah, absolutely. And then there are days I don't even eat lunch. I'm like, oh, did I eat today?
Yeah,
No, I didn't eat today. Okay, I need to go grab something, right? Because again, you're doing everything yourself.
and you're just constantly going.
Yeah, but I often look at doing everything myself as something that's it's temporary. This is just the beginning, right? I am so excited about what Co-Create Solutions is about to evolve into. I'm already seeing it. And I'm so excited to see it this time next year. And I'm confident to say that because I know all the work that I put into it. And I just feel like the signs that brought me here would not lead me astray.
Mm,
So I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. So those moments where I feel like I just want to give up, and I want to give this advice to entrepreneurs out there or those who want to be an entrepreneur but afraid to step out. You won't know until you try it. And I know I make it sound easy. It's not. It's not easy.
no, it's not.
No, it's not at all. But it's worth every minute of time that you put into it. It's worth it.
Yeah, it definitely is. That as a repeat offender, um, yeah, I would say just stop being a entrepreneur and just become an entrepreneur. Just go for it.
I haven't heard that one, Shally.
Yeah. That's my own little one. I've had a lot of conversations with entrepreneurs. Yeah, I'm going to start my own business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yeah, that's
uh,
hilarious. I think another thing I wanted to mention before I go to, and I think it's something important, is that, when you have such a support system, a strong support system of those who you worked with in the past, and they've left Fiserv and they've gone on to different companies. My first break was somebody I worked with years ago, who saw that I had started my own company. And she said, I'm now the chief people officer at this company. We'd love to have you. So I feel like I have had an opportunity to not just run full circle with the building that I worked, but with people that I've worked with. Um, those people have given me an opportunity, and I can't thank them enough. And if they're watching this, they know who I'm talking about. It's four of them, and I'm so grateful for them, for just saying, you know what, Cole, I remember the work that you did in corporate. Let's get a contract in place. And I'm like, that's awesome. So I think that for those entrepreneurs that you mentioned, think about the fact that you are going to have a support system. Everybody's not going to help you, and it would be some of those people who you thought would, but they don't, and that's okay. You just continue to build on those that have, and find others, not dwell on the people who were not there for you.
right.
And that
Good
takes
point.
a lot of resilience in itself. That takes a lot of, you can't get your emotions tied into what people won't do. Like when you hear crickets, when you reach out to somebody and they don't return your
Yeah,
call, you can't get caught up in that. And I had to learn that the hard
for
way. You
sure.
just got to keep moving, keep moving.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Don't listen to the crickets.
that's right. That's right.
All right. So now for the final question, and this is a tough one. So I usually save it for last. The big question is, who should be our next guest?
Who should be our next guest? Huh.
Hmm.
Hmm. That's a good one.
Doesn't necessarily mean you know that they're going to accept, but uh, you know, drop a name or two, and I will reach out. I've been I've surprised myself with the people who have accepted the invite. I had somebody recommended this top marketing guru that looked like he got paid for speaking, and I invited him and said, "Hey, so and so said I should reach out." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that." Yeah, and then he was on my show. It's like,
Oh, that's
I don't know,
awesome.
just somebody that you think,
Ah,
community of Atlanta, business owner, uh, you know, corporate, doesn't matter. Just who should be here in the show.
and I have to answer that now. Can I get you somebody?
Well, you can get me somebody, but you got any suggestions that you can just drop a hint on? Um,
um, I'm trying to think. I have somebody in mind, but they would kill me if I mentioned them.
okay, well then don't do that. Do that
Okay,
privately.
I don't want that person to kill me, but I do
Yeah.
have somebody who I think could add a lot of value,
Okay.
as it relates to talent
All right.
acquisition, and or HR.
All right. Well, drop me a note, and if you can think of
Oh well,
somebody that you would want to be on the show, um, yeah, cool. All right.
absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot, Co. I know this was a big deal, a big step for you. You haven't done this kind of stuff before, so appreciate you taking the chance to be on the show with me, and always fun to hang out. And
Thank
hey, listen, if you're out there and you're feeling, kind of alone in your office, hit me up. Let's go grab a coffee or
I
something. No
will.
reason we
I
can't just go
will.
down the street and get a Starbucks or whatever.
I sure will. And Shally, it's been a pleasure. And I know you and I have done some things together. You've been great. I can't I can't leave the show by saying that you actually helped me land a contract. And again, revisiting those people that you work with before, have been they've been instrumental with where I am today. So I just
Happy to your
want to
community,
thank you.
definitely.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody. All right. Well, tune in next week. We have the fabulous Jim Stroud, who will be on the show, and he is always as entertaining as he is informative. So come on back. And until then, be kind to yourselves. Bye, everybody.
Bye.